How was it without me? Did you just have fun? I have listened to the whole thing. I edited it, so I know this.
Oh, so we can't lie?
Yeah.
Is like any other recording on it?
But bad, because I wasn't there.
Sure.
It went. I think it went on quite long, didn't it?
It was fairly long, yeah.
Yeah, it was...
It's like just over an hour, I think. And I did cut out a few things, so...
Yeah, that wasn't a great game.
It brought up some good discussions.
Yeah, no, it did. Because it is, like, so out there.
Yeah.
That, of course, you...
I feel like especially, like, narrative games like that, especially, I feel like will always bring up a lot of good discussions because different people will like different characters and have different ideas on how the whole thing should have played out. But guys, I have a preamble topic.
Okay.
As we were playing a game based around Greek mythology, I have found a BuzzFeed quiz that I would like us all to do.
Is this what god are you?
Which god or goddess from ancient Greek mythology are you?
Love me some BuzzFeed quizzes.
So I have 3 windows here, so I will do it for each of us. Guys, pick a mythical creature from the following: Cerberus, Hydra, Centaur, Unicorn, Mermaid, or Griffin.
I don't like any of this.
Griffin.
So Alex is a Griffin.
So what was before Mermaid?
Unicorn.
Sure, hit me up.
I was a unicorn.
Such a basic bitch.
You know, I'll be a centaur. I'd like to think I'd be a nice half-horse man. Pick a fruit to serve at your feasts.
Oh.
Apple, banana, watermelon, peach, pear, or cherry.
Oh, fuck cherries.
None of them are grapes.
Correct.
Yeah.
I feel like the only one of these I actually really would like go out of my way to eat is an apple, so I'm going to pick apple.
I'll eat any of these. I kind of want to know what watermelon leads to, but
are you on watermelon?
You know, yeah, I'll go watermelon because I feel like that's more of like a feasting thing, right? Because it's massive.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Right.
I'll go cherries because they're close to grapes, I guess.
Okay.
You know, if I go to a party and next, like, here, take this apple, I'll be like, what the fuck? But like, you know, you've played Persona 4, Nick. You know, big old watermelon.
Yeah.
Hey man, if you walk into a place and I hand you a barrel of cherries,
No, you get one.
no,
Get a single cherry to share for your whole feast. Alright, guys, pick a Roman deity to be your BFF. Here, oh god, I scroll way down. Diana, goddess of the hunt. Neptune, god of the sea. Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Mercury, messenger of gods. Cupid, god of love and attraction. Or Proserpina, queen of the underworld. You know what? Neptune seems like he'd be down for a good time.
You know, I like my food. I like harvesting.
Alright.
You know, I'll take harvest.
Alex?
messenger of the gods. Who was that? Mercury.
Mercury, yeah. Hermes is the Greek equivalent. Pick the color you'd like to be associated with.
Right,
pink, purple,
pink,
yellow, light blue, green, or navy.
pink.
Purple.
I'll go green. Green's my favorite color.
I hope Nick has like accidentally like gotten the windows mixed up at one point.
No, I haven't. Wait. Oh, this isn't gonna work. Okay, hold on.
Is there a visual thing?
Yeah. I'm gonna have this. Alright, okay. Give me 2 seconds to take a screenshot of this. Guys, pick a cat.
Wait.
Oh, I like.
Middle right.
I'll take top left.
Wait, hold on. Alright, I'm gonna go with the black one because it looks
None
like
of
my
these are
cat.
bananas.
Because that looks like my cat. So, Alex, what are you going for?
Middle right.
Middle right, the grey one.
Yeah.
It
It looks kind of
Top
like
left.
subtle.
top the fuzzy one.
The fuzzy one.
Okay. Oh god damn it. All right, another visual component.
Oh, question. How many questions are there?
Did you look before you started this?
Nope.
All right.
Guys, pick a dog.
Oh, okay. I want the husky.
I'm going for the sausage
Yeah,
dog.
middle left husky. Because Bella's like a husky cross.
So you're both huskies. I went for the sausage dog. Alright, guys. What sword? Sorry, it's just weapon. You have plain old broadsword, an axe, a mace with a flail, a bow, a dagger, or a scimitar. I'm going straight up sword.
Axe.
Yeah, I'm feeling the axe as well.
Yeah.
Wait, oh god. Oh, no, okay, this is our way, yep. Axe. You're going both going axe? Okay.
Yeah.
Same taste in dogs and axes.
Oh no, sorry, there's not that many. There's 2 questions left. Alright. Guys, pick a constellation.
Oh, jeez. Oh, I like that look of that, like, kite-ass looking kite on the bottom right.
You going for the kite-ass looking kite?
No. I'll go...
I'm
Actually,
going,
you know what? Yeah. Give me the kite.
I'm going for the swan.
Give me whatever the hell middle left is.
Alright. And finally, guys, your last question.
Which god do you consider yourself?
No, it's somehow it's even dumber than that. Pick a vase.
Oh, wait. Okay. Alright.
Ooh.
Alright, well, that's a thick boy in the top left.
Was the bottom right a Hercules one? Where they did like
I feel like these have all been in Hercules.
Okay.
I'm going to go with top right because it looks like a good trophy that you could also hoist above your head. As if you had just won a competition.
See, I like bottom right. You
want bottom right?
Yeah, it's pretty like plain and.
I like bottom left because it's pretty risky.
Yeah, right. It's a bit too top heavy.
We have our answers.
All right.
Who would like their answer first?
Well, should we not do it in classic Bash Bros order?
All right. I am Zeus, leader of the gods and thunder.
Oh, convenient. The host of the show is Zeus.
Yeah.
IY, you are Apollo, god of the sun. Yeah, you're hot shit and you know it.
Fuck yeah.
I'll take that. Kite? There was that kite pick, man.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what burns up when it gets too high? Kites. Alex, you are Ares, the god of war.
I don't understand how I got that, but okay.
The description here is, that is to say, you're one spicy mofo. And that is definitely going into the description of this episode. Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Not So Super Bash Bros presents Game Club for October 2020. Yes, Game Club is back, and more importantly, I am back. Everyone loves me.
Boo.
Aww. Yes, Game Club, the monthly video podcast review thing where we take turns picking games, go play them for the month, come back and discuss them for your listening pleasure. This month, IY picked Hades from Supergiant Games, the isometric action roguelike game. And as ever, I am your host, the god of hosting, Nick Davis. Joined by the god of simping, Alex Proudfoot.
Hello.
And the god of social media influencing, IY Chung.
Yeah, alright.
Hey, I think your account has more followers than Bashbur's, so...
I don't think it does. I'm pretty sure it does.
Dude,
I never heard people like complain about like, oh, you know, I'm worse than you.
Yes, Hades, as I mentioned, from Supergiant Games, originally released at the end of 2018 in early access, with its final 1.0 release coming in September of this year. How is everybody?
I'm alright.
Good? We all good?
Kind of sleepy because I lugged luggage over to my new flat.
Is that now like Alba? I moved last month. I was moving this month.
When are you moving, Alex?
Hans could move. I don't know. Fucking anyone could move next. You and Hans need to discuss it amongst yourselves, Alex.
Hans can move.
Okay, fair enough. God, I can't be arsed moving again. I never want to move house again. It was...
Well, have I got bad news for you, Nick?
Terrible experience. So, before we kick into it, IY, you picked Hades. Do you care to elaborate on your decision?
Well, I know that Supergiant Games... That's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
Alright, yeah.
Not Supermassive. Someone else. There's another studio called Supermassive.
Yeah, right. I think that was the one I was thinking of in my head.
I think they make Until Dawn.
I know, like, a lot of people... a lot of Bash Bros like those games. Except for maybe Pyre. But we're not talking about that today.
Love
Alex will die on that hill.
I did try that sometime. So I thought like this would be like, a really great discussion. But of course, like the more important reason is that it's a roguelike.
The only thing it was missing was cards.
Technically, you could argue Pyre is kind of like a roguelike.
Is it?
Hey man, you have to finish it multiple times.
That's a really loose argument you would have to make.
Hey man, it's there. You could make that argument. I'm not going to.
That sounds like any game I can finish multiple times is a roguelike.
There's over 20 endings in Nier. It's not a roguelike.
Yeah. I can get multiple endings in God knows how many RPGs. It doesn't make them roguelikes.
Hey, it's not multiple endings. There is only one ending.
So you're just playing the same game multiple times.
But it changes up.
I'm
so therefore...
Don't spoil it, man. I needs to go play Fire.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, as ever, I have split this into 3 categories, and someone's going to need to fill in for Hans making random noises in between here.
Or we could just have dead silence.
You know what I'll do? I'll insert clips from other episodes that Hans has said.
Okay, I'll do.
Category 1. Gameplay.
Wait. What about how have we finished it? Or how far we got?
Oh, yeah. God, I'm just rusty, man. Sorry.
God of being shit. Alright, Alex?
God,
the sickest of burns. So, how far did everyone get? I cleared it once. I cleared it once today. I'm going to keep playing it. I'm like way into this fucking game. Spoilers. But I'm planning on... So obviously, one clear is generally not... like, as we'll get into it, one clear is not the end of the game, as it kind of is with some roguelikes. Alex.
So, I have cleared it 38 times?
Jesus.
I think I'm near 80 runs.
I was going to say, do you know how many attempts off the top of your head?
I think it's near 80 now.
Because I think I'm on 22 or 23 runs now. Oh, why?
I could not tell you how many times I finished it. But it is not as many as Alex. I know maybe on like 30-something runs. Because I remember my 10th run being 33.
I assume you use both rolled credits on the game?
Correct. That is after the 10th run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that is what I'm aiming to do soon rather than later. Again, needs to get crossplay, or else, and I would probably actually end up sinking even more time into this game if it has crossplay. Yeah, so yes, the 3 categories: gameplay,
Jews, am I right?
story and characters,
It's poop.
and finally, is Supergiant Games possibly the best developer in the world these days?
Someone shit themselves in my work the other day.
I mean, it's such an easy question.
Yeah, no, Blizzard, duh. But yes, let's kick it off with gameplay. Supergiant have been known now, apart from Pyre is typically the outlier of their games, and this feels like them kind of going back to the isometric action game, and probably even more so than, more similar to Bastion than I'd say Transistor, where it is much more of an action game. Transistor had sort of like stop time strategy elements to it. This is a lot more of just a straight up isometric action game, similar to the vein of how Bastion was. There's obviously a lot more systems in work in this than there ever was in Bastion. But that's kind of how, if you were to boil it down and compare it to one of the other games, you would say it's much more like Bastion than any other former games. And in terms of just that core isometric action gameplay, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I could not fault the core gameplay at all, and how satisfying like it all feels. Each weapon has like a distinct playstyle, which is incredible, and you do kind of have to figure out how each weapon sort of works, and then you layer on top of that the stuff like the boons, the different power-ups you can get as you go through, and just everything about the core action like systems and how they all work together is fucking top-notch and incredible.
Are we specifically talking about the combat?
Yes, the actual like combat side of things rather than the roguelike elements.
Okay. So combat-wise, so I played in the alpha bit, right? And actually, a few things changed.
Or Alex, did you ever play in the early access, or did you wait till it actually came out?
I waited until release.
So it was just me and you played in the early access hour.
Yeah. And the only big thing I remember changing is that I do not believe there was a dash attack. Which
I think that was maybe it was added later. Like that wasn't added with 1.0, but it was definitely in the early access. It definitely wasn't at the very start of the early access.
Which is kind of interesting because I feel like whenever you first start playing the game, that is all you spam.
Yeah.
There is no like methodical thinking about things, which is actually the one, I guess, issue I would have is like enemy attacks are quite linear. So if you dash in any direction, like you will probably dodge it as long as you dashed, rather than like a more kind of like let's say Dark Souls. Let's just throw it out there, guys. Let's just talk about Dark Souls.
Be that guy.
Yeah, like you don't need to be as precise in this game. Like in the grand scheme of things.
But I also feel like that ties into this being a very fast-paced game.
Yeah.
Like obviously Dark Souls is known for its slow, methodical combat. This is not slow or methodical in any stretch of like this is very much seat of your pants, make decisions on the fly, like all the time, and never not dashing, or never not moving anyway.
Which I actually think is actually a problem, personally, because it's not like a skill that you develop. So one thing I kind of noticed from like watching, say, you playing the other day, Nick, right? As someone who hasn't played it as much, as opposed to like myself playing it, and Alex has obviously watched this both, like, is that like I will stand still a lot. Yeah. Because I've played it enough to know that if an enemy shield is broken, you can just stand there and sunlock them, right? That's more DPS or whatever, right? And I think dashing is quite it's kind of like OP, I guess. Like I don't know like how else to say it, but it's really strong in this game.
Yeah. You have a lot of iframes.
Yeah, you do. And I kind of wish there was like another like defensive option, I guess. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate of like, what would I do to like make the game better rather than like...
It's weird that like a game like this doesn't have a block button or like a parry.
What was it in Bastion? You had a roll?
You had a roll in Bastion.
Okay.
Hey man, it's got a block.
With that one specific weapon.
Yeah, with the shield, yeah.
But like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
doesn't have a block.
It feels like it should be like almost a either or. Like depending on the weapon you either have a dash or a block.
Oh, that would be interesting.
So like you're trading off like, all right, the shield blocks. Maybe you make the bow have a shield element to it, where things like that, like a small change like that. Because I agree with you. Like I feel like there is very little advantage to not moving in this game until you know, like as you said, you can stun lock an enemy against the wall or something like that. Which, like, I understand that, like, that is very much, like, I feel like, with the spear a lot, I end up doing that. It's just, like, jab, 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 until someone dies.
Yeah, it's just that, like, it is effective. It is too effective to dash attack spam. Until you get to, like, bosses. Like, because, like, I think it's only, like, say, like, the Minotaur who actually cleaves.
Yeah.
So even if you dash, you still get hit. If you dash in like a bad direction. But most other enemies, it's a very small hitbox on their attacks.
Well, some of the Furies.
The Hydra Slam could be argued as like...
Some of the Furies as well will do like a dash forward and sweep attack.
Oh, but I'm saying like mostly early game. Or just not early, but like just, as a... I think that you are encouraged very early on to spam this thing, is what I'm saying. Which I think is a bit of a shame, because the game has a lot of different options, which I never really appreciated until... do you know how there's like that, like almost like an achievement list? Like the book log thing? And you essentially fill that out by like trying new things.
Yeah.
And that for me was actually a lot of fun. Like, there's a lot of boons where, like, at first glance, I might be like, this is fine, but it's not spam dash attacking, right?
I will say, like, as in terms of the boons and stuff, especially in my early playthroughs, there were a lot of times where, like, if I saw one was like, all right, your dash attack does extra damage, I was like, all right, yeah, immediately take that without even looking at the other ones.
Like, they don't scale super well, but, whenever you're playing for the first time, like, that doesn't really matter,
But I feel like that's a nice thing to have in a roguelike, in a sense that it's nice to have something that you can immediately feel comfortable doing, and then that lets you get to a certain point, and then you start realizing, all right, here are the flaws with just constantly doing this.
Yeah, all right.
I see your point in it is probably too effective too late on. Like, if you can get up to and probably past the second boss by still doing that. Like, I think that's what I did. Like, I accidentally cleared Asphodel, like, the first time I got there, which I was not expecting to ever do. But yeah, like, and then, obviously, I think we've talked about before, was the third boss in Theseus and the Minotaur is the big rope, like, probably the first big roadblock. And that's kind of when I was like, alright, okay, I just can't rely on the same thing, because suddenly when there is 2 tanky people and 2 big health bars I need to kill, this strategy doesn't work. But I think, having that something to get someone immediately comfortable playing your game is, especially in roguelikes, I feel like a smart design choice. It maybe just works too well for too long.
Yeah, I just kind of wish, because a lot of games like limit your number of dashes, right?
Yeah, or have a cooldown on it.
Either a cooldown or like a stamina bar.
Yeah,
kind of thing. But like this game, it's like there is obviously a recovery period, but
it's like minuscule.
Yeah. I don't know. But you make a really good point, though, that roguelikes, through design, need to be difficult, right?
Yeah.
Because if you finish it on your first run, then, well, then there's not much else is there, right? Like, what's the point in continuing to play? But I think this game does something quite interesting as a post-game thing. Because as someone who sort of played a lot of roguelikes, whenever you finish a game, the draw to play again is your build, right? It's trying new stuff. And this game has that, right? It's your hammer weapon upgrades or it's your god boons, right? And those are the two things that... on your weapon. Those are the things that keep making you like come back to play a bit different. But this game also includes a kind of like an epilogue, right? And it's not quite the same as whenever you're playing through it the first time the story beats, but it's enough incentive to keep playing, like to see more dialogue and to sort of keep pushing you forward with more than just this game is fun, which is really cool because this game is also really fun. Yeah. So there's
I have that written down. Yeah, for like the set, like when we're going to talk about story and character, I think it's important to note that I feel like this is the first roguelike that gets that actually does a really fucking stellar job with the story. But it's the first one I can really remember anyway. But in terms, you mentioned it there was these are meant to be hard, and I agree with you. Yes, this can feel like a hard game at times, but I also feel like this is something I feel like this game does more than other roguelikes is I feel like I pay way more attention to learning attack patterns and things like this compared to, say, for some reason the game I kept thinking back to of my experience when I was playing this was fucking Dead Cells. But every time I got to Thesis of the Minotaur, I was constantly chipping away, doing better and better, regardless of what my build was. I think that's the really important thing, is regardless of what my build was, getting up to that point, when I got that boss fight of Theseus and the Minotaur, I constantly did better. I got better and better each time, and now, like, regardless of what my build is or what weapon I'm using, I can get past them. And I don't know what it is about this game or why that is the case. Like, it's not the case that the boons and the weapon upgrades are completely pointless and they don't really matter, because it's the exact opposite. I think it's just the way the game's designed is... It is much more about learning the enemies rather than getting lucky on a run with certain abilities.
So, I think this game is very fair, right? Like, in a lot of other roguelikes, you can end up in situations... Okay, so I'm going to throw that. So my favorite roguelike of all time is not always the most balanced one, which is FTL. Right? So it's obviously known for being a great roguelike. Rogue-lite, sorry. But
we're not going to get into the argument between a roguelike and a roguelite. That's a whole other barrel of monkeys.
There are situations in that game that if your build is not correct, not correct, but like if
it feels
you
unwinnable.
don't... Yeah, there are unwinnable states that you can run into.
Which is, I feel like that is a problem a lot of roguelikes fall into.
Yeah, but because the game is very interactive, there is this element of skill, right? That you can always get better. But in a lot of other roguelikes, it's more about like your deck building that gets better. Like another game which I think does this very well, though it's bloody difficult, is One Step from Eden. That Mega Man one. Yeah. That is a game where you actively get a lot better. Like, I get further because I am physically getting better at this actual game. It
reminds me of Spelunky. Spelunky is very much a roguelike, where, unlike, say, this, there is very little in terms of active progression. Like, obviously in this you have the idea of you're constantly leveling up your abilities in the mirror and things like that. Spelunky has very little of active progression. Like, the most you get is you can unlock shortcuts to get to certain places. But Spelunky is very much a roguelike where you learn the intricacies of all the systems and how they interact with each other. And that's how you get better. Like, it's not like, oh, I lucked out and got the right item. At the start, yeah, it is, and that'll get you so far. But at a point, it's more about, alright, I understand that I constantly need to carry something with me so I can drop it off a ledge to trigger any arrow traps. And I feel like Hades is very similar, where each time you get the boss, you're going to learn something new about it, something new to handle it. Every time you see a new enemy, you'll learn how to handle it better and figure out how to, like, quickly isolate them or kill them very easily. And, like, that's what makes, for me, a fantastic roguelike, where it doesn't matter what I have up to that point. If I get to the point at Theseus and the Minotaur, or get to Hades, and regardless of what build I have, I can put in a good attempt and put in a fantastic effort to say, yeah, I might not beat them, but I don't feel like I shouldn't feel like I'm let down by my luck, essentially.
I think also the roguelite element is the mirror, right?
Yeah.
So...
Well, that is your persistent progression.
Yeah, well, what I actually kind of really like about the mirror, as opposed to...
Also the weapons.
But you can't... But your weapons don't get stronger, though.
They do?
No, not at the start.
They do when you unlock, like, all of them. Like, you unlock the aspects.
Yeah, but that doesn't count. That doesn't count for this.
That's pretty late on.
Yeah, the point is that... as you get stronger in this game, it's not like... So one of the original roguelites, or that sort of, like, revived the genre, or rebuilt the genre, was Rogue Legacy, right? That's like... but that game, at the time, I was like, oh, this is really cool, right? But looking back on it, it was really bad.
Hey, Rogue Legacy is great.
No, I did not enjoy that game. But one of the things about that game is your progression is very, like, stat-based, and which is very dull, right? Like, if you say you deal 10% more damage, that's not very interesting in the grand scheme of things. But whenever, like, the mirror effects are... you deal more damage, but only when backstabbing.
Yeah.
Or you deal more damage, but only on first hit. Those actually require very different, like, play styles and builds, right? Or what's another like?
There's one where it's like, oh, you deal more damage to people that have your blood shard in them.
Yeah, like that's an actual gameplay thing, right? Yeah. That's actually really cool.
It's like
those are still numbers, but it's
adds to the idea that you're learning the game as you play. Like you're learning, like it's very easy to say, oh, I can just stat check my way through a roguelike because that's kind of what Rogue Legacy devolved into. Like you're just stat checking your way through it and just building up the resources to increase your stats. The mirror stuff you get in this game is very much they're surfacing new ideas of how to approach challenges. Because you could easily upgrade a lot of the stuff in the mirror and never actually take advantage of it. Like, I found myself doing that. I was like, I kept putting points into, like, oh, you deal more damage to enemies that have the blood shard embedded in them. And then found myself forgetting to cast. And, like, not taking advantage of this thing I'd sunk God knows how much shadow into. So, like, I really like the idea of the mirror because it surfaces new aspects of the gameplay that you may not have realized.
Yeah, there's, like, a boon later on, or a mirror thing later on, which is just, like, if an enemy is affected by 2 status effects. And that's like a build-defining thing.
Yeah.
And if you're a player who sort of, I know like I had this attitude like back in the old like RPG days where like I didn't care about status effect moves, right? Like because that's not damage, right?
Yeah, that's
I didn't
not
care
numbers.
about that, right? And then I played like punishing games like all like the Shin Megami Tensei games, which are like really punishing if you don't like take advantage of all those like things.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, other players, like, at the start might be like, oh, this boon does more damage, thus it must be better than, say, like, this boon weakens, right?
Yeah.
Or this boon applies a dot, which is slow, right? I agree that, like, I think the game does a really good job at slowly introducing, like, aspects to, players who, like, probably haven't played games like this, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it. Like
me?
Yeah, right?
Because I don't play roguelites. At all.
And you loved it.
Yeah.
So now you can go back and play all of the... Think of the world of games that has now been opened up to you, Alex.
I have zero interest in roguelites outside of this.
Yeah, so here's the problem: is that Alex is like a bad example because he just loves Supergiant games.
Yeah,
which is a biased opinion, right? Like that's not a good opinion to have, right? Just being biased. So I think, but I think this is like a really good like introduction for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And an introduction to like maybe how these games should be made.
Yeah, it is in terms of then that you mentioned there, like the actual core. We talked about the actual action gameplay, but to talk about the rogue elements of it, I think this is a very good, again, a fantastic example of how to do them correctly. Where I can think back of so many times in games like Spelunky and games like whatever. Actually, maybe not so much Spelunky. It doesn't really have that many. Rogue Legacy is a great example, as you brought it up, where there are times in Rogue Legacy where you'll die and you'll go back to like the hub and feel like it was just completely waste of a run because you didn't make any actual progression, you didn't get the money you needed to level up or whatever, and then you just have to give up all your money when you go back into the castle. This feels very different to that. I've never felt like I've been punished for dying. I don't know whether it's just because I do make it I make it consistently to Elysium now, but even in the beginning, dying never felt like it was a punishment. It felt like, alright, I can go back, I can recollect, I can level up in the mirror, because I think those are all it's all very well balanced around what you're going back with. And then that's to add, as we'll get to later on, the story elements as well make this seem like even less of a punishment.
Yeah, no, I think the story thing is what holds it. Because most roguelikes, it's the gameplay, right? That's why you play those, and like the gameplay needs to be good. But if you do anything, like if you do any game for like an extended period of time, you get a bit of burnout, right? So having this moment of respite, literally like in the lounge, right? And you're chatting to people, that gives you like a second where you just like take a moment for yourself and to and you're always rewarded for dying, right? In different ways, rather than just...
You brought it up, like saying it's a moment of respite is actually a really good analogy, because I feel like it's very easy in roguelikes especially to be like, fuck, alright, just get straight back into your run, let's go, like fucking let's just gun it and get as many runs as I can done. Whereas Hades doesn't have that feel. It feels like when you do get back, it is alright, take a second, compose, get ready to go again. Like it's never this mad dash to get as much done as you can. like I know in FTL when I played it, it was constantly all right. Shit blew up. Let's go again quickly.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the gameplay could not fault it in the slightest. I think it is top notch and like well removed from just roguelikes. I think you would struggle to find a better action game this year, or even within the last couple of years. Like, I think there's just something about the way this plays. It just feels super smooth and so enjoyable.
The only issue I had with it was the poison mechanic.
Oh yeah,
like, that's not the, like I will say, like, there is obviously very minor slights. Like, there are certain enemies that I think are poorly designed. Like, I think the shield guys are not fun to face, like with certain weapons, because like I especially notice them with the range weapons. Like, the shield guys just don't are not enjoyable to face off against. As you mentioned there, the poison mechanic is kind of feels very tacked on in that final area. I think the design of that final world in general is kind of poor.
Yeah, the catacombs.
But it feels very slapdash. It feels like, all right, we just need to give them like 6 rooms that they can pick and hope and like the random chance that you will pick the right room.
That is quite interesting, actually, because that is the one part in the game which is like completely random.
Yeah.
Right. Which sorry. Obviously, a lot of the game is random, but like that affects like the length of your game.
Yeah. Like that's kind of there are generally defined lengths for each of the worlds. And like, it's suddenly like, all right, you could either get on your first attempt at one of these doors or your final attempt at one of these doors, and that could be the difference of like in a run is, all right, do I strike out lucky and get this early on, or am I forced to slog through like 4 or 5 chambers?
Actually, now that we're sort of talking about this, there are a couple of like issues. I guess.
Do not get me wrong. Like, I do think there is issues in this game, but I think they are very, very slight.
So one slight thing is, I think the second boss isn't very good.
Yes.
Because you can
own HYDRA.
Yeah, because most weapons you can like outrange it, which is really dumb. Like, it's less of an issue on the hard mode.
Yeah, because
you don't have as much space. But like, yeah, it's a bit weird because I think Meg is like a good first boss.
Yeah.
And then the Bone Hydra's kind of crap. And then you get this huge spike with Theseus, and then, right, which is like really cool. Like, that fight, I think, is like probably the best one. I don't know.
Yes,
it has a lot of flavor to it.
You know why I would actually agree is because it's the lack of ads. Because there's a lot of things that you would get a lot of bonuses off, like, oh, I don't need to worry about hitting Meg because I have chain shots that will chain from ad to her. And it gives me added range that I don't necessarily need to be near her and risk myself. And when you're suddenly in a enclosed room with 2 bosses, you lose that. And it's very easy in the boss fights to just not pay attention to the ads, because they will typically kind of die from collateral damage. Whereas that's not the case when you have to pay full attention to 2 bosses.
And, so the one thing I would say about the design of this, which I find kind of odd for a roguelike especially where you're making room decisions, is that in other roguelites like this, for the setting, it makes complete sense, right? But there is actually very little variety in this game, because in terms of like the enemies and the setting, because you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, because we're including the catacombs. Only 4 worlds, yeah?
Yeah.
But most other games, what you would do is you'd have World 1, which is static. Yeah, then you would like have a choice.
Yeah, it branches off.
Right? And that's whenever you can feel like you have different bosses,
like Dead
different
Cells
enemies.
is like the big example of that for me, is like you go through like the sewer bit and then you have an option of like go to a town or like the rooftops or something like that.
Yeah. Like, and that is, I was facing burnout whenever I was like trying to get to the credits, because you get to the point when you can get to Hades pretty consistently and you can beat him most of the time, and then that feels like that satisfaction is not there anymore.
Yeah.
And because the game is always the same, that is actually the biggest issue, I would say, as a roguelite.
So maybe it's because I'm not as far into it as you two are, but I feel like the game has done a good job of introducing the variance, though. Like, as soon as I felt like, all right, I've got Meg nailed down, and kind of beating Meg is just a formality at this point, they introduce her sisters, and like the idea that, all right, this boss has changed.
They do throw in like curveballs in the bosses because the Hydra has different.
Yeah, like but they do that with all and I'm sure eventually like Theseus and the Minotaur may change. I don't know. Probably haven't beat them enough for the game to recognize. All right, you've got this down. Let's add in the variant.
I think they do the shock. I think the shockwave thing comes in.
I'm sure. Okay. I think I've also seen Theseus fight where he summons or where he has multiple gods like powers. So, like, he will be doing...
Oh, that's random.
Yeah,
every time as well.
But so, like, it's not just, all right, he'll do the Athena attack where it does the outer ring and then the inner ring. He'll mix it up with, like, a bunch of different god attacks.
So the issue with that, though, is that, like, you're all talking about bosses. But
even then, I think they've done,
encounter.
Like, I think they've done a good job so far of, like, I've still seen, like, new mini-bosses and new enemies in the rooms in all three worlds.
I do think until you get the packs... the enemies get pretty samey outside of bosses.
But I only encountered the Gorgon mini-boss for the first time yesterday. After, 20-25 runs.
Yeah, I believe there's, 3 mini-bosses per
they're,
world?
They are...
Yeah. There's the Barge of Death, the Gorgon, and the Rock Dude. And then the Wizards, I believe, for that.
Yeah, something like that. I always keep finding the Barge is a mini-boss, right? Yeah. Like, it's supposed to be the which
so,
is fun.
I agree that, yes, there is a lot of sameness, but I also feel like that is then offset by they do introduce variants, and then, now that I've killed Hades, they've introduced the idea of, all right, you can make each run harder in very different ways with the heat system. And I feel like that's where the variation comes from, is it's not massive variation, you're right. It is, I could still probably... I could still go 5 runs and probably still see the same enemies the entire time. But there is now variations in I need to play differently because, the first time I hit an enemy, it's not actually going to deal any damage and things like that.
Or the armored enemy gets perks.
Yeah. I feel like at a point, there's only so much content you can put in a game. I think we're not expecting to... No, you should never expect to see something new every single run from your first to your God knows what number. But adding the systems in there like they have that allow you to kind of make your own variations is smart.
So that is true, but I just think the base number is kind of low.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So let's say for Worlds 2 and 3, right? Let's say you added 2 extra or 1 extra option for each. Mm-hmm. That then means that there is how many extra possible combinations you could have to get to the end. And I think that's really cool then. But I think what the big advantage of this is because you were doing the same thing, it means that you as a player are always getting better.
Yeah.
Because you're doing the same thing all the time. Mm-hmm. It's just, for me, your variety is the spice of life. Mm. And seeing the same backdrop all the time is a bit...
I fully expect them to keep supporting this game. I don't think now that it is in 1.0 that they will just be like, all right, we're done. Fuck it. On to the next thing.
I'm not sure.
I don't know what... I think they will do a Hades Redux or something like that, where they'll maybe do a whole resweep of the game that you can enable, or maybe add I don't know. I think I would be shocked if this is the end of the Hades updates. I would be shocked if there's not at least 1 or 2 more major updates.
I wish I knew what the story ends with, because I think I saw on Alex's achievement thing, there was this bit where Persephone has a plan or something that you need to figure out, or there is some kind of progression thing. I don't know what that is, and I think I said to Alex whenever we were first starting to play this game, I was like, okay, I'm calling it now. The twist is gonna be you make it to the top, and the gods or whatever attack the underworld. You gotta fight your way back down, right, or something dumb like that, or it's gonna pull or what I was actually hoping was the example I gave to Alex, I think, was it's going to be Pokemon Gold and Silver, where you finish the Elite Four in Johto, and then there's this whole other game.
Yeah.
And I was
there's Kanto.
Right? And that's just oh shit, right? That was such a great surprise as a kid, right? But then in Hades, it would be you fight to the top, and then you got to fight to the top of Olympus.
Yeah.
right? Like that. I thought that was going to be like the big thing.
That's what I'm thinking is like that could be there. Like, all right, a year, 18 months from now, they'll be like, all right, here is Hades 2.0, like the 2.0 version, and it's now.
I wouldn't even mind if it was an expansion.
Yeah, like if it's a DLC or something like that, that's what I could see them doing. Is all right now, go up, go higher, keep going.
To be fair, I think what I'm really hoping for from this game is just other developers seeing this game.
Yeah.
I know I think a lot of people like to talk a lot about how this game should have a sequel. This game needs more DLC. I want to give more money, but like I think this is like a really cool game as a example of like a good roguelite.
Why are you saying this is your? Is this to you what Outer Wilds was for me? Or you want to see other developers taking cues from this game?
It's kind of how I feel about a lot of like roguelites. Is there's always an issue with a lot of there's always something that's not quite perfect. Because it's hard to make a random game perfect, right? It's hard to do that. But this game is like super fucking close. Like, and yeah, I guess maybe like.
So story and characters, which is not something I thought I would ever really want to discuss in a rogue-like game. But gosh darn it, Hades has done it. I mentioned earlier, like, death never feels like a punishment in Hades, and the story and characters is a massive, massive part of that. Every time you make it back to... Is it called the Palace of Hades? Is it just called the House? The House of Hades?
They mention the house a lot.
Yeah, so every time you get back, you end up back at the house after you die. There is always some form of progression, whether it be just conversation with people, you learn a little bit more of the story from listening in other conversations. And I think it's so smart. And it shocks me that another roguelike has not done this. Or like has not done it to such a good degree as Hades has, because it just seems so fucking obvious. And it's not just that they've done it and implemented it really well. I think the other side of it is, I think each of the characters and the overall story is phenomenal. I think they are both top notch, and it all goes part and parcel. I think the art they've done for all the characters is incredible. I think all the voice acting is incredible. I think all the writing for each of the characters is really smart, and could not fault the story and characters at all in the slightest, where going into roguelike, story and characters not what I'm looking for, and suddenly I'm like, fuck, this is the best. Why aren't more roguelikes doing this? Now, Alex, give us your half an hour spiel on why Dusa is the best companion.
I don't know, man. She's broken my heart twice now. First with the let's just be friends, and then now with the hey, I'm leaving. I'm literally out of here.
So, is that a common theme? Are people gradually leaving the house as you progress their storylines, or is it just Juica?
That was Juice's.
Okay.
So, the whole thing with Juica is Nyx is not fond of you talking to Dusa. And since she is technically Dusa's employer, when you get close to Dusa stops talking to you because she's told off by Nyx.
Is that why she keeps fucking levitating? Like, my planet needs me away from you.
She panics and like runs away from you because she's scared of Nyx. So you have to like have a big conversation with Nyx and be like, "Yo, I'm my own god. You know, I can talk to whoever I want. Leave Dusa alone." But like the fear is always there because Dusa doesn't like trust that Nyx is going to leave her alone. So even after you have like that massive story development with Nyx, Dusa still runs off at the end of nearly every conversation. I think it's like whenever you max out her like hearts, she doesn't run off as much, but she still like would do the odd time. But like the story progression from like character to character is just astounding.
Oh yeah, like it's, and like each character, like it's funny that like each character has their own life outside of what Zagreus is doing. Yeah, I think that's the really like you'll like Zagreus be walking around the house and be like, oh, Thanatos isn't here or Achilles isn't here. They must be off doing something, and like it feels plausible because like Thanatos constantly talks like, oh, I'm fucking keeping track of the war on the actual upper like on Earth because everyone's fucking dying up there. And like Achilles' slow like story of he was Zagreus' like martial mentor and like helped him become the guy he is now. Like it's so good.
My favorite one outside of Dusa is Skelly.
So without spoiling it for me, because I do this is like the mystery I want to figure out is, do you find out who hired Skelly?
Yes.
Okay.
And it is so well done. Also, his favor, so good.
But yeah, like overall, like I just think each of the characters is so good.
The favor system is once you get to a certain point with the like gifting and getting the hearts, a heart is locked and you have to complete a favor to unlock the next set of hearts, which requires the ambrosia you get from defeating the Minotaur.
Yeah.
So like the favors are also really cool.
What are the favors? Or are they just do X thing out
Achilles has a favor where you need to void his contract that keeps him in that world and out of Elysium, so he can go see his boy. Orpheus has a contract that needs voided.
But when you say like
what's the gameplay?
What's the gameplay aspect of it? Is like, are you actually having to go out and do something, or is it just another conversation with someone?
It's you just need to get resources and unlock it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Some of them, Skelly's is you need to upgrade a weapon.
Because like I'd say like this is the bit of the game I probably haven't engaged with the most.
I wouldn't like it. Doesn't tie favors the gameplay.
Oh no, but it's just like I've been doing. I haven't been min-maxing it like on your guys' advice. I haven't been like, it's only now that I've started giving people past their first nectar to level up their hearts.
Oh yeah.
I'm giving it all to Meg because she has a whip, but it's kind of hot.
Once you get all like keepsakes, yeah,
that's what I've done. Is like I've gotten all the keepsakes, and I was like, all right, now I'm just going to give the characters that I have felt the most affection towards. Now I'm going to give them the nectar first.
So that's one thing I would actually say which is kind of odd about the game, and a part which I actually dislike now that I'm thinking about it is I really dislike all this like dating sim Persona-esque like really like in like formal like here is a log of all your characters and here is a level assigned to that character, which I find like really, it's not very organic, right? It's not like say a Mass Effect relationship, right? Where it is natural, right? Like it's, you're not looking at stats.
I don't like, you say it's natural, but in a way in Mass Effect it's just, alright, you do a main mission, you can unlock the next conversation with this person. You do another main mission, you unlock the next conversation with this person. It's not necessarily that it's stat driven or it's it is just the thing you need to do to unlock the next bit of their relationship is just much more ingrained in the game and what you're doing.
Yeah, which I think is actually like because this game does such a good job with like world building, because like the characters, like because they're all voiced and like and all that, and yet in order to like see more of that, you go through this process of like collecting a resource, which makes sense for a roguelite.
Yeah.
But then handing this over, and the weird part, as opposed to other games, is that the best reward you get at the very start, which is really weird. Like
unless you
doesn't
include the companions, in which case you don't get at the very start.
Correct, but like that's not really like a big deal. Like it's a bit odd that I don't feel I need to take part in this part of the game because I got what I needed to play the game.
Let me tell you, man, I'm still playing it because of that. Because I'm actually interested.
No. But you're a completionist, is the thing.
No, I'm not.
No,
I'm
you
not
are, Alex. How many nothings did you collect?
Not all of them. I collected about half of them.
But that's a hell of a lot of nothings, right?
That's a whole lot of pressing A at random bits in Blue Dragon. See,
I'm not. But how long ago was that? I'm not. I wouldn't call myself a completionist now.
Whenever we played Black Flag, were you not collecting shit?
Yeah, sometimes I would like go out of my way to do it.
So
but, like,
I would level at this IY that I feel like that is an argument you could put at a fair number of systems in this game. Is if you really wanted to and didn't care and like all you wanted to do was see hit credits. You would never have to like engage with like the heat system or the aspects and things like that. I'd be fairly confident that someone could complete this game 10 times without like ever applying heat or ever applying the aspects to their weapons. And I feel like, again, I think that's why you put the rewards for it at the start, is so you can do it once, get what you need to do, and not have people have to grind out multiple nectars to get some form of gameplay relevant item out of it.
No, but there should be a progression, not I do this conversation once and I get the gameplay thing and that's it. There is no incentive, is what I'm getting at, to go any further from a gameplay standpoint.
But I would also say there's no incentive then to apply heat and things. If
that's directly applying to gameplay.
But if your end goal is to just roll credits, there's a lot of things you would need to engage with.
No, but that's the problem, right? If you add something to a game, if there is no incentive to do the thing, then why have that in the first place?
But again, I say you could do that to a lot of this game.
All I'm gonna say is I enjoy the story of it. I enjoy the character, so I'm gonna go out of my way to do it.
The only thing I would levy against the nectar stuff and giving people nectar is that giving people nectar doesn't immediately unlock some story bit. Like, it's not like, say, as just because you brought up Mass Effect, where every time you progress their story, it is you're getting new information and new things. Typically, whenever you give someone a nectar, it's just like, oh, cheers, sweet. You need to wait till you get to the third or fourth one for they actually unlock a new bit of conversation and things like that.
I thought they always said something as soon as you hand it. Then there's a sentence.
Sometimes
it's like a sentence of them saying, "Oh, cheers," blah blah blah. Like, it's very, very throwaway stuff.
They have set reactions to receiving Nectar 1, Nectar 2, Nectar 3, blah blah blah. But they usually always have new conversations.
But people always have new conversations anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not tied to the nectar.
Like,
for
people
them
always
to
have new
conversations.
You could probably count in single digits the amount of time someone doesn't have a new conversation when they're in the house. Like, obviously, there's times where, say, Thanatos isn't actually there, but anytime he's showing up in the house, I've had a new conversation with him, regardless of the nectar I've given him.
Also, I wouldn't say what their reaction is throwaway, because it isn't the same reaction every time.
Oh yeah, it's not the same reaction, but it's not like, oh, you've given me this nectar, let me tell you all about my backstory and what I'm doing here. But
it builds up. So Achilles takes you for drinks and actually tells you about his backstory because you give him a nectar.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is that is a checkpoint in the nectar system, it's not every time you give him a nectar, it's not like, alright, here, let's go get a drink, Sag, and then have this long discussion.
Yeah, but if it was every time you give him a nectar, that would really drag it out. Though.
Oh yeah, but it's also the same. It's like that system is in other games, and it doesn't feel dragged out.
But what I'm saying is they're not throwaway comments because it does progress.
But what he's saying, Nick, right, is that every time Juica opens her mouth, it's worth listening to, right? Let me translate it for you, Nick. Right?
But no, what I'm getting at is the first time I give Meg a nectar, yes, she gives me the whatever fucking item she gives me, and then the second time I give her, literally her comment was, "Oh, I'll confiscate this for you, no problem," and that's it. It's not like I'm getting more of her story or anything. It's
that's her.
Yes, I know that is her, but that doesn't feel like a payoff to me expending a resource, if you get what I mean. Her saying, "Oh, I'll confiscate this for you, cheers," that's not a payoff to me spending a nectar, which are fairly, not massively finite, but they are a rarer than usual resource.
It is a choice that you were making.
Yeah.
So
I get it is building up to something. Burns. Yeah, I get it is building up to something, but it doesn't feel great when I'm expending a resource and getting a single line from someone.
Because the point I'm trying to make is that, as Nick has actually now pointed out, is that because you are physically deciding on a room to say, okay, I'm going to not pick a room that increases my power, and pick a room that, so I can bang someone, right? But there is no correlation between gameplay and that system. It's not like, say, Persona, right, where you hit those different steps.
Yeah, getting someone's social link up gives you direct influences in how you play the game.
Yeah, Kanji drop kicks you out of the way to save your life. Like, that does something, right?
Yells get bent.
Right? And that happens later on as well, right? There is, like, tiers of rewards. But the main reward here is story, which is great, by the way. Like, as the quality of the reward is good, it's just that it doesn't tie with the gameplay.
So, I could be a bit skewed here because I give everyone their first nectar. And I didn't give any more until I beat the game 10 times. I stockpiled.
Okay, so that's not what I'm doing. Like, I've like singled out like what 2 or 3 people.
Well, I gave it to Juica every time I saw it, but outside of Juica,
like I've singled out 2 or 3 people that like when I see them and I can give them, I will give them nectar because they have immediately struck a chord with me that they are interesting characters that I want to see their story progress. So, but I also feel like that doesn't really. I get yes, when you've completed the game 10 times, you feel like all right, runs probably don't mean as much, and going out there and dying, and you probably feel like at a point, I can sit there and get all these nectars because I'm not trying to reach an end goal of seeing the end of the game. But
well, I don't actually go for nectars.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because I feel like I'm not getting a reward from it, I'm actively avoiding nectars.
There you go, guys. We got there. No incentive.
That is the crux of the issue. Is after the first one, once I got enough to give everyone their first nectar, I have actively avoided nectars because they are not worth it to me.
You know what would be like an interesting quote-unquote fix? Well, it's not really a fix, you couldn't do it, but like, if you had tied the characters with like a different buff on the mirror, so like, and you know, admittedly, you could do really boring shit, right? Where it's like, oh, Achilles, like for each nectar you give him, like you get your conversation and you get plus 1% attack power, right? Yeah, something really boring, right?
But like that, like you could easily tie that. Like obviously, Thanatos is the aspect of death. It's like you could easily tie him to like, yeah, that's why Zagreus could defy death.
Okay,
like, Like there are spells in there that you could probably, or there are already mirror perks in there that you could tie to characters.
You could only get nectars from the shop.
Wait, the Charon shop?
No, the shop in the house.
Oh, the wretched broker.
Yeah.
But what would that do? Oh, right. So you're saying
it would remove it from the like a chamber reward.
Yeah.
So if you have like an excess of darkness and you're still waiting on the keys,
but that's still you converting something that could have been used for combat for this again.
Yeah,
but those are the things. Like, I would rather stockpile nectars or shadow than nectars.
But then you have a choice of not buying the nectar. But the option's there instead of like removing a chamber reward.
I think the problem is still incentive.
Yeah,
and I think like tying it to gameplay makes so much more sense because they do it at the start, and like whenever that happened at the start, it's like, oh, I'm excited, and then it kind of loses that excitement.
Also, I don't see nectars that much in runs.
Have you got them turned off? Not turned off, but have you got? Because remember, one of the mirror things reduces the chance of them.
I don't think so.
Because that's actually the other thing, actually. Yeah, so one of the mirrors...
it's like you can see combat rewards more often. You can see resources
which is
more
another
often.
way to power creep... Well, not power creep, but like to improve your odds in a run. Yeah. Which is an interesting way of doing it, actually.
I might have that on, but
I would tend to agree with that where I feel like this is probably... If you're going to point out something as the biggest miss in this game, I think the nectar system is it. Which is a shame because I think the characters... It's weird because I feel like you get so much of the story from the characters already that then you then tie a lot of more of their story behind the nectars. It's just weird. It's weird.
It's very rogue-lite.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
It is expending resources for the sake of expending resources because that's what you do in a roguelike.
Which is interesting because you already have keys, you already have darkness. Also, the keys are used for 2 separate things. Because they can be used for weapons. Admittedly, there is a finite number of weapons. And it's also used for the mirror, which I think is interesting, I guess. So...
Yeah, I did find, like, it is... You're right, that is weird. Now that you mention it, is like, yeah, the keys have 2 uses. Which, like, I feel like nothing else in the game has 2 uses.
because most roguelites, there's only one currency, right?
Yeah.
And you just decide what to use it on. Usually it's like really basic like that. This is like a lot more interesting because it does add, again, choice to the rooms. It's just the nectar system is separated from combat or from the game, which is just a bit odd.
Yeah.
Like it did not, I never like failed a run being like, damn, if only nectar or something else.
A boon that gives you a buff to health when you get nectars.
I never take that. The only time I've taken that and then felt screwed by it is, I think it doesn't actually, like, I think when you take it, it doesn't increase your current health, only your max health. And I was in this type where I was like, oh fuck, I could really use like any bit of health right now. And then it didn't increase my current health. I was like, god damn it, fuck nectars. And fuck Dionysus for giving me this option.
Oh, he's the best boy.
All the gods are incredible.
So I saw really interesting. So Amy obviously does not play the game, but she
has the hots for Zagreus. Me too. Don't worry.
So that is on point, kind of. So do you know? So one of the reviews, or reviews plural, that Amy has been reading is about how hot the characters are.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think this is actually quite an interesting topic, right? This is one of the few games where I feel like the characters are all hot, but they're not sexualized.
Yes. Bar Aphrodite, but that's kind of obvious.
Even her, like, even she's not...
The only thing covering up Aphrodite is her hair. That's pretty sexualized.
Yeah, but, like, she is not, like, typical... Like, her face looks kind of odd.
Yeah.
For a, like, beautiful person or whatever. In like, modern day beauty standards, right? Which I think is really cool, actually. Like, in this game that, like, you have all these characters, you'd fuck up any of them. But not because of how they've been, like, dressed, I guess.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, it is...
I'm not seeing huge titties everywhere.
Yeah. They are... Like, it's not fan servicey.
Yes.
Is probably the best way of putting it. It's like, it's not like when you play a Japanese game and there's the inevitable beach day where every character goes to the beach and you see all the female characters in bikinis. It is... And I think it does a good job of tying into, this is how...
That's DLC.
Yeah. This is how, like...
We're all in the fountains, just chilling.
Greek gods and their mythology are presented. They are all presented as these ideal, beautiful humans, and the idea of the sexualization of them wasn't there back then, because we didn't want to fuck everything. We weren't being like, yeah, sex sells. It's just, gods are hot, and everyone's just fucking each other because that's what we do in ancient Greece.
I did see in one of my runs, I unlocked a conversation with Hades. This was actually one of like the post game ones as well, actually, because you talk about it in like essentially I don't want to spoil, like a room that you open up later. And he was like, he does mention how like Zeus is like fucking around. Right? He does talk about that stuff, which is like really cool. I feel like I'm really biased in this game in the sense like I love Greek mythology, that stuff. Like I think that is the most interesting, like ancient history. So
do I have the MOBA for you, IY? It's called Smite. It's got Avatar characters in it. It's got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're gods now, apparently.
What was the latest thing they added? There was something.
It was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Was it them? Yeah, that did look pretty cool. Which meant that like a lot of the things that a lot of the characters said, like we kind of already knew, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever the gods are talking about essentially like their roles, it's like yeah, we knew this. But what for me was the most cool was like essentially hearing about characters who you don't really see talked about as much, like what do you call the guy with the boulder? Sisyphus. I knew like of him, but I didn't know that was his name.
But man, right? Alex loves Rock of Ages, and that's what that whole game is based on.
Yeah, right. And like stuff like the Furies. And like Achilles, and I think the portrayal of Theseus is hilarious.
It's just this massive douche.
Yeah, right?
And the bull's just like, yeah, I know, he's a dick, but I kind of owe.
But man, Theseus on a chariot.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, no, I just think like their portrayal of characters in this game is really great, and for once not in like a sexualized way.
Also,
oh god.
the music.
Oh yeah, music's incredible, but that's par for the course for Supergiant games.
And it also ties in to the story.
What, Orpheus? Or...
Yeah, and when the credits roll, but like that's a spoiler, so I won't say anything. But like the music is incredible.
See, man, they tied the music to it, but the actual thing that you collect isn't tied to the game, right? That's fine. But no, sorry. There is one thing which Bunchy and I will complain about, right? There is one piece of art and presentation that Bunchy and I both agree is bad, okay?
Which is?
Character reaction sounds and the clip art they use.
Oh, we're gonna fire out 3 hearts from Aphrodite every so often.
And it doesn't match the art style.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
And
it's similar to when you're in Elysium and you see it in the house as well, where you see the emojis pop out of some of the spirits of smiley face, crying face. That art feels very out of place, but I also think that's really funny.
Yeah, that's fine. But the actual conversation ones, Bunchy and I were I think I was watching Bunchy's run, and we were just looking at this, and there's just weird sample sound it plays whenever someone's
shocked, and there's
yeah, and it's really out of place because, as Alex said, the music's really great in this game.
Yeah.
The sound design's really, and then you've got this weird royalty-free sound effect.
My first wave file.
Yeah, again, it's a minor thing, but it's just odd. It's just really odd.
So, any last story and character sections before we head on to our final category?
Damn it, Dusa.
Future Nick put up that screenshot of Dusa fucking dumping Alex's ass and friend-zoning him. So, I posed the question for the final category: is Supergiant Games possibly one of the best developers in the world these days? So far, they've released 4 games in Bastion, Transistor, Pyre, and now Hades, and every single one of their games gets massive critical acclaim, and every game they release seems to get more and more online traction of just people talking about it and the positive reaction in the wider audience. And it's hard to find a major fault in any of their games beyond kind of nitpicking small details and potential just 1 or 2 missteps. And I think it is very easy to make a multiple that Supergiant is now becoming one of those independent developers that every time they release a game, everyone should stop and take notice because they are top fucking quality. And before this, the only one you haven't played is Pyre, yeah?
Correct. And
Alex, you've played all of them.
I have, yep.
So Bastion is the first game that I went out of my way to get every achievement in. That's... And I think I tried to do it in Transistor and then got sidetracked. I think I was a couple of... I think Transistors was way fucking harder than Bastion, or had any right to be. But it's just... And they've also managed to do bar maybe Hades, kind of edging in on what Bastion was doing. Each of their games feels unique, whereas Transistor, yes, it was a kind of this isometric action game, but it also had this whole strategy layer of freezing time and doing this tactical thing. And Pyre is a fucking sports game.
Hell yeah.
So it's not just, they found their niche and they keep doing it like some other independent developers. It's they have just figured out how to do fantastic gameplay and couple that with their style of incredible art and their, as we mentioned, amazing soundtracks. It just feels like they have figured out what the fuck game development is all about and can knock it out of the park every time. And I couldn't tell you recently what other developer is like that.
So, I'm not going to argue whether or not they're the best developer, because all I can really say is they're probably my favorite developer. They just absolutely nail storytelling in all their games. Even with a main character who cannot speak in Transistor.
She has a talking sword.
Yeah, but she doesn't speak.
True.
And the storytelling in Pyre is different, but in a good way.
Is there a narrator in Pyre?
No.
Because I feel like whenever if you say to me like from the creators of Bastion, the first thing I think of is there's a narrator.
I don't remember a narrator.
I don't think there's a narrator. Because
so, so what you're saying is Pyre was bad. That's why they went back with Hades.
I also I don't think Logan Cunningham voices the narrator in this one. Does he? I know he is Hades. But I can't, because obviously Logan Cunningham did the voice of the narrator and whatever the guy's name was in Bastion and the sword in Transistor. I don't know if he does the narrator in this one.
I'm sure you could just Google it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there was a narrator in Pyre because, like, you play as a character very much in the caravan.
Yeah. Like you're very much a single character. Like, it's hard to put into words.
So you're saying next month's Game Club game is Pyre?
No.
So.
Oh no, Logan Cunningham is the narrator in this, or the storyteller as he is called.
Also, like the.
God, he also voices Poseidon and Achilles. That's some range.
Have anything else to add, Alex?
No.
Also, in terms of like this game, right? Because you were saying how you think that Hades, there's like been so much more hype for it, right? And it's been lasting so much longer. Is this because is this the game, the Kickstarter game, or early access game? Sorry, that did the whole giving dates for updates. Because
so.
I feel like
I think they were fairly regular with their updates, like in so much so as like as soon as they knew it was going to ship, whenever you booted the game, it was like, oh, X days to next update.
Yeah, and I think that's like
but I don't think that was. I don't think it was ever hard and fast. Like, oh, we're going to put this in the game. It's like we are sticking to it. I think there are times where it slipped.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure there was. Like, shit happens, right? But
like, it's the fact like this was announced at arguably the biggest platform next to E3, and like this was announced and dropped at the Game Awards, which you don't see a lot of independent games doing that. Like that is very much the Game Awards is now being seen as a thing for the top publishers to announce their new games and things like that, like similar to an E3. And to see Supergiant do that with an early access game was shocking and kind of painted it in the light that they were aiming for. That this is a big deal.
Yeah, but like what I was trying to get at was that like as an early access game, because there's always this like stigma of early access, right? Of like, is this shit actually going to come out? Like, yeah, and if it's a Kickstarter, it's like, did my money actually go to like
contribute
the right people,
to something,
right? But because I think developer and player community like interaction, like having players being part of the development process, like openly, is like. It makes sense, right? Because as like if you work for a company, obviously you get like client feedback and stuff, right? Yeah. Or at least you should, right? To like make your product better or whatever.
Yes, but, as people who both work in software development, we know this.
Right. You need to do those things, right? But like I think an example that's currently happening is the new Guilty Gear game. They have like open like developer blogs where like people are asking them questions and they're answering them. Obviously in a very obviously they answer in very diplomatic ways, of course. Yeah. But that is so important. Like because to use the Guilty Gear example, there's been a lot of backlash because of the online how you do the online stuff, which if you didn't have this, although there was backlash, like it would be so much worse, right? If you ship the game without hearing that feedback. And I think this game, because it was so connected with the community all the way through its development, like...
Yeah, I think looking at the patch notes is really cool to see the things they've tagged. It's like, oh, this was like directly influenced by feedback.
Yeah.
So are we happy to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Yep.
So... For me, this is top notch. Could not fault Hades in any massive way for me not to recommend this to someone. if you're not a massive fan of roguelikes, which I think it's a shame we didn't get Hans's input in this, because I think he's kind of the far, like, he hasn't really played the other Supergiant games, and he's not massive in the roguelikes, so it would have been nice to get his input into how he felt this was. But I feel like if you're not in the roguelikes, this is a perfect game to show what roguelikes can be and what other roguelikes should strive to be. I think it nails all the systems, and it then wraps these really well done systems in a super satisfying, super fun action game. And this is, I'll put it out there to say this is one of the best releases of this year, and will likely be on my top 5 game of the year at the end of the year. Alex.
So, I don't play roguelikes. And this was, and still is, so fun to play. And I might be a bit biased, because, I'm a Supergiant fanboy. But it was so easy to get into, because I was kind of nervous about me not liking roguelikes, and this being a roguelike. I didn't think I would like it. I was kind of worried. But, like, it is so good once you get going. And the music's top notch, of course. Always a good point.
Why?
Yeah, as the guy who plays many roguelites, this is, as Nick said, like, such a great example and of one, and I would recommend this for anyone. I think we're focusing on the term roguelite a lot, but like it's just a great game, right? At the end of the day, and like everyone should play it. But yeah, just like, and everyone's hot, right? What's not to love?
Deuce it.
No, man, it's just she doesn't love you.
Yeah.
So overall, very, very positive opinions. Go play Hades. So, coming to the end of a year's worth of Game Club, I pitched a question to you guys instead of our usual, here are our favorite games, top 5 games of this cycle. I decided to ask you what you thought was your most surprising game, because I feel like it would be better for prompting discussions. Did you do this?
Oh wait, that's for this week?
Yes.
Oh.
So I have kind of thought about it.
So I can quickly list them out, if that will help IY.
Wait, should we not do this whenever Hans is here? Like, we just do it next time?
He was going to send me it through, and I think he did send me it through.
Oh. Do you have like a link so I can just read while you guys
No,
talk?
I think he just sent me it on Facebook.
Don't want me to put...
So I have my one, and we can do that first.
Don't want me to link all the games that were picked?
Yeah, sure, you can do that.
I'll do that.
I have a list here if you just want me to read them out. I will go first, and I will say that for me, the most surprising game of these 12 games was Ori and the Will of the Wisps. In a good way, I will say this is not a bad surprise, it's a good surprise.
Yeah,
So like this was what I wasn't expecting to like Ori 2 as well. I thought the first one was good, not incredible or excellent by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a good game. And going into Ori 2, I did not expect to like it as much as I did, especially like it more than the first game, but I just thought it was a really fun game, a really smart evolution of the original. And as I have put in my notes here, while I know the others did not share as high of opinion as I did, I still think it's a really worthwhile game to go play, an incredible experience. And it has been probably my favourite Metroidvania-esque game in a very, very long time.
I'm pretty sure only I was opposed to Ori 2. I'm pretty sure everyone else liked it.
I was pretty indifferent.
Yeah, like, none of you liked it as much as the first one. Like, where I feel like I was the only one that liked it more than the first one.
Okay.
I just kept arguing, you might as well just play Hollow Knight.
Oh, yeah, true.
Like, that, like, for me, that was the biggest, like, from hearing, like, I played it later than you, I know at least Alex did, and was hearing his feedback, like, yeah, it's alright, it's not, I don't think it's as good as the first one, and then to then play it myself, and enjoy it as much as I did, it was a very, very nice surprise, and definitely one of the highlights of this cycle for me.
Okay,
Alex.
I picked my game, so I'm ready.
Alex,
So-
what was your most surprising game?
I'm going to go with Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
In a good or a bad way?
In a good way.
Oh,
But
Because-
it's Assassin's Creed.
But here's the thing.
But boats, I hear yes, boats.
I soured massively on Assassin's Creed. I just would not play Assassin's Creed anymore after Revelations. Revelations turned me off Assassin's Creed so much. Tom got all of the Assassin's Creeds up to like the London one?
Syndicate.
Yeah. And I just would refuse to play them because it soured me so much. But Assassin's Creed has Black Flag has opened my eyes.
Opened your eyes to a brighter Assassin's Creed future.
Maybe there is actually better Assassin's Creed games.
I would just say avoid Unity.
Okay.
And then
Is that the one after?
Yes. Unity was the first one, like the first only next gen one, yeah.
Coming out from 2 and Brotherhood, like they are top tier Assassin's Creed games. And to go to Revelations, it just turned me off Assassin's Creed so hard. So that was a very nice surprise for me.
IY, what was your most surprising game?
Outer Wilds.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say, because looking at this list, I'm seeing like there's like a few sequels on this list, so like obviously you expect certain things from it. But I think Outer Wilds, actually, like looking at this like 12th cycle, Outer Wilds, Thief, Telling Lies, and Hades, I think these 4 have been like really cool games to discuss, because of like they're very different, because they have like really cool like gameplay discussions to have in them. But I think Outer Wilds is the one where I had heard of Outer Wilds, and I'd heard like it made so many people's like game of the years, but I knew nothing about it. And it's weird because like it's a game which, as I said in the previous video, link in here, right? Right there, Nick. Just link
sure.
the video.
Future
right
Nick, you know what to do.
I personally like. It is not a game for me, as I said in that video, but it's so unique, which is why it's so surprising, right? And I think, yeah, it's a really cool game that people should look into.
God, so good. If I hadn't heard as much buzz about it prior to like picking it, I probably would also say it would be the most surprising game.
But if you want a negative surprise, Darksiders 2, which is a game I picked.
But man, we knew it was going to be bad because it was your fallback pick. When you don't put that much thought into it, of course it's going to be bad. So Hans has not sent me through his. He said he was going to and then never did. So we can do that next time. But for now, we have one final bit of business to attend to. And that is for me to tell you what game we'll be playing in November for Game Club. So I wanted to pick a slightly shorter game for Game Club, knowing that there's a lot of new releases typically in November, and Hans and I will have to do a lot of recording for those new releases, so I want to give myself an easier time. So the game I have picked is a game from the Oxenfree developers, which is a narrative-focused game, and this is also a narrative-focused game called After Party, which is only just released on Steam. So it's been out for a while on Epic, but it is only just released on Steam. And I've started playing this. I had started playing it before a while ago and never actually finished it, so I'm looking forward to having a reason to go back to it and finish it, and because it seems like a really, really cool game. And it's all about drinking. No comments now.
I don't know what the game is. I have no.
I'm like looking it up right now because I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, see,
like,
complete unknown.
I remember seeing it like on the store, but is this going to be my new surprising game?
Maybe. Keep it in mind, man. It's the start of a whole new cycle. So, join us next time where we'll be playing After Party, but for now, is goodbye from IY. Wait, no. Goodbye from Alex, sorry.
What?
I got confused.
Worst host.
Yeah.
I know, right? Where's Hans?
Boo! Goodbye from Alex.
I just said bye. Jesus Christ, Nick.
Goodbye from IY.
Goodbye, I'm not coming back to this show.
Goodbye from myself. See you next time. Toodaloo.